Welcome back to Unlabelled and Limitless, the podcast that makes space for stories, experiences, and truths from the neurodivergent community and beyond. I'm your host, Lois Bainham, and in this episode, I'm joined by our newest co contributor and fellow psychology master student at the Open University in the UK, Faye Harrison, and why understanding these conditions starts with listening. So let's dive into this week's episode of Unlabelled and Limitless, where your brain, your story, and your voice matter. In this conversation, we get personal, opening up about our own experiences with ADHD and autism, from childhood behaviors and societal expectations to the long road towards understanding and diagnosis. We unpack the impact of masking, explore how our upbringing shaped us, and reflect on what it really means to be seen and supported. All right, so we were just talking about how writing this last paper really made me think about the other side of that relationship. And psychologists, even up to this point, right, up until quite recently, where psychology's really taken some steps forward and started to look at cross cultural variations and things, which makes us more informed because diversity does make us more informed. A lot of parents have been told that they're giving this information to the child and the child should be receiving it, but it isn't. The child is communicating from 2 days old in a lot of cases and understand quite a lot by 12 to 14 months old. And I realized until I had a big refresher on these developments of language acquisition and things like that. So I think it's important that we start to build into the discourse to parents, like how much their child is actually communicating to them, and it isn't a one-way street, right? Because
hmm
there are early signs there. There might be a difference here, and it's not a bad thing. I think that's something else I see a lot. A lot of parents, when there's a suggestion like your child might be different, they might have a neurodiversity, they might have dyspraxia, be dyslexic, or have ADHD, or whatever it is, it's like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, right? And
Mm,
it's that you want your kids to be a certain way because then there's nothing wrong with your genes.
yeah, I think a lot of parents take it personally
Mm-hmm.
if their child is unique and I guess doesn't fit the standard. I mean, I had that in even my reactions from my parents when I told them. My mum said something like, I'm sorry I didn't pick up on it, but you could read a book. My parents are they're in my mum's going to turn 70 in a few months, and my dad's in his 70s. So I think the generation, obviously, they were born into, she was very much like a boys thing.
Mm-hmm.
And even back then, I think it was something that they thought that boys grew out of as men. So a lot of the stereotypes have unfortunately carried on through the years and lead to false information. Yeah, like the fact that, oh, if you've got ADHD you can't sit and read a book, and it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
there's two things to unpack there. One is that just because I'm from the outside reading something, how do you know I'm not reading the same paragraph 4 times? And also, it's not factoring in hyperfixation.
Yeah.
So I used to use books as escapism as a child, and I would get lost in a book and I could sit for hours. Like, I would sometimes not go to sleep when I was supposed to. I'd wait
Yeah.
for my lights to be turned off, and I'd get a little torch under my bed and just read for hours because it was my escape. It's like that little thing of, oh, well, you could read, so you must not have it. I know this is mainly about ADHD, but obviously you know that I'm awaiting an autism assessment. This was another thing. My mum said that's something she did pick up on when I was a toddler, and she said the reason why I didn't pursue it was because you showed empathy. So again, that's a very common misconception that those with ASD on the spectrum don't feel empathy. It's complete rubbish. It's just that we have it in different ways. In fact, some of us over empathize
Mm.
to our own detriment. I was explaining this example to someone the other day. I can sit and watch a film and there's something in it that's really emotional and really heavy and deep. I'll be crying my eyes out, my eyes will be streaming. But if I had a friend who kind of told me something, I don't know. I don't think I'd react because I'd be processing it. So maybe to someone on the outside, they'd think, oh, she didn't even flinch. And it's like, well, no, because I'm processing the information and I'm involved. Whereas if I'm watching something about people I don't know,
Yeah.
because I'm detached from it, I feel like my emotions can come to the surface.
Yeah, there's definitely moments. So along with ADHD, I'm diagnosed with PMDD and a few other things too. But my doctor, when he started treating my depression and anxiety, said this is also going to help you with your PMDD. And oh my gosh, where was I going with this right now? What did you just say?
Empathy with autism and how that's such a conceived idea that
Oh, right.
that's a deciding factor.
I didn't realize that, especially leading up to my periods, and it took a while for me to really recognize it and be like, oh, okay, I think my period's about to hit me, right? Because there'd be some really weird shit that I would get very emotional about. And there'd be these moments that would happen, and I live in New York, so there's constantly things happening. It's like if ADHD were a city, New York would be it.
I can see that.
It's yeah, it just it like the pace of it, how shit happens, the weird things that unfold, and you're like, did I just see that? This morning, I spent 5 minutes looking out of my window because I could see somebody breaking into a car. I spent 5 minutes watching because my experiences have said not everything is what it looks like. What looked
Mm.
like him breaking into a car, I was like, let me see if he's actually breaking into it. Then it turned out he was actually decorating his own car, putting decal stickers on it. I took a pause, took a moment, and managed to not call the police and be a Karen. Hey, somebody's stealing a car out here, but
Yeah,
yeah,
but it's hard not to because we see something and if it looks like it, then that's what our brain instantly jumps to that
yeah,
conclusion. But yeah, it's good that you allowed yourself to go, oh, let me just watch this for a bit and figure it out because I that's happened to me in so many situations. Like I've tried to call a spade on something and then no, it's not what I initially thought.
yeah. And I think the way that like people with ADHD are reacted to as well when we underreact or overreact to a situation um can be pretty traumatizing. I definitely underreact to major scenarios. I had an ex-boyfriend once that bought me a game called Worst Case Scenario because that's like my favorite thing to plan for is the worst case scenario. And after I was diagnosed and started looking more into ADHD, I discovered that some of us are like mental doomsday preppers
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I'm like, okay, I know how to rescue us. I know how to grow food. I know how to design an integrated system and do this, this, and this.
Well, we're great in a crisis. We
Yeah,
are. We're absolutely great in a crisis for that reason. Like, we don't sometimes react in a way that others would expect. I volunteer for Shout, which is a crisis text line. When I told my parents I was doing the training, my dad made a comment like, you do know it's going to be really hard. You're going to be, I'm like, yes. Uh, like I've done my research. I know what a crisis line is. I know what Samaritans is. I know that most people who will be texting in are literally at their wits' end. That's why it's a crisis line. And I, aside from my first shift where I was just really nervous in general, it doesn't phase me. Obviously, I can't talk too much about it for anonymity,
anonymity.
but a lot of the time, dealing with quite heavy stuff, and not everyone would be able to deal with it. A lot of people would be like, oh, and they take it home with them. I think because these people, I can support them and detach and not think about it for ages afterwards. And I think that's a really good thing that we're able to do that some people just can't understand. That's why I think you find a lot of ADHDers in emergency services and fast paced because we're just kind of more able to deal with things like that.
Yeah, the amount of rabbit holes we go down and useless research that we do, right? At some point, it just kind of comes up somewhere, and you're like, oh, I've prepared for this situation mentally. Back in 2016, I just started a new job, and I like to ride my bike everywhere. I would cycle to work in a morning, and one morning I got hit by a school bus, and it was one of those legit American yellow big school buses. Um,
Mm.
and it didn't stop. Right, so I'm riding my bike, I get hit by the school bus drives off, and it turns into this comedy scene. My reaction to getting hit by that bus was to jump up, assure everybody that I was okay, refused to get into the ambulance because I knew that the health insurance I had was shit, and I know what the American healthcare system is like. I just didn't even want to have to deal with it. We were waving down a police officer who was trying to log off his shift, but ended up staying around. There's way more to the story that I could go on about forever. In the end, I ended up much later on going to an urgent care because they're a lot cheaper. I kind of walked in and it was like, hey, I got hit by this bus. I've got all this bruising coming out and things. I've got back problems. So could you do me a favor and just give me some x-rays and make sure I didn't break anything or there's nothing obvious going on there? And the guy's like, you got hit by a bus. You need to go to hospital and have a CT scan. I'm like, no, I'm fine. I just need you to do these x-rays and make sure nothing's broken. And he's like, but you got hit by a bus. You really need to go to the emergency room. In the end, he did my x-rays. I was okay. I wasn't broken. I was just bruised. And he started laughing at me because he's like, he loves Monty Python. And he was talking about the Black Knight. And he's like, I can still fight you. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't realize you English people were actually like this. But now I know, right? And the reason why I think I was okay when that bus hit me is because I used to cycle a 26-mile round trip every single day to and from work through some of the more dangerous parts of the city. And when I couldn't cycle, I'd have to walk it, which was like a 7-mile trip with a train in between. And while I was on this really long journey, I thought of every single scenario that could happen to me getting hit by a vehicle and what I would do in those different situations. Getting hit by that bus wasn't the first time I'd had an accident on my
Mm.
bike. There'd been other instances where I'd had accidents and I jumped up from them too. Because in my brain I'd consistently been like, okay, if this thing happens, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna fall this way, I'm gonna like land like that. And it is like this insane amount of anxiety and over planning about the day I was going to get hit by a car meant that the day that
Yeah.
I got hit by a bus, I've been hit by cars, I've slid in the rain and slammed into an intersection, and the cars thankfully were able to stop in time, like in really bad weather and things. Anytime I've had one of these incidents, I'm like, okay, I prepared for this. This is what you're going to do.
Um, it's crazy that we do that sometimes without even realizing it. Like, I'll notice sometimes I'm walking home on my own in the dark and I'll be like, right, if I see someone jump out of that street, this is what I'm gonna do. It's weird, but in a way, I feel like it does prepare you for if that were to happen because you've already kind of envisaged it. So I'll be like, right, my keys are here, this is here. I'll scream at the top of my lungs, all of this stuff, so that actually, if you ever get in that situation and the panic takes over, instead of freezing, you've kind of already rehearsed it, so
Yeah.
you can go, oh yeah, I thought that. But we are very good at planning for very random and probably not overly expected situations, but someone's got to be good at it.
Yeah. I say to my brother all the time, because him and I see eye to eye on some things but disagree on other things. And I say that's because you and I look at different data sets, right? He loves computers, he loves programming, he loves building systems and things like that. And he is very information data driven. I'm also data and information driven, but I love history books and
Mm.
reading about different perspectives in psychology. I studied psychology for my undergrad and I graduated 2002. Coming back to it and combining that base
Mm.
knowledge again with kind of like the higher level research and studies and expectations like just really filled me with hope because I can
Yeah,
see how far it's come. Back in those days I was very like, I think these people are way off the mark, but I ended up taking a different path um for a number of years before coming back to it, and now I'm back at it. I'm like, okay, now I see where we're at and I agree with this.
must be quite a difference with the time past. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, but the fact that really it's only been the last 5 to 10 years where they're going, yeah, women and girls can be neurodivergent too. Like that's huge, and it's still so recent. I feel like we're in the middle of it right now, seeing the waiting lists and the amount of, and then you get these people who are like, oh, well, everyone's got it now. No, they
Yeah.
don't. It's because half of the population didn't think it was even possible, and now they're realizing, oh, actually, okay. I mean, obviously, you mentioned earlier that there were signs anyway, but you, because you could just be authentically yourself, it wasn't really until it started hindering you
Yeah.
that gradually that came out. For me, I didn't know enough about it. I think I was guilty of having that, oh, it's the boy who's eating Smarties with loads of E numbers in, he's really hyper. I never really considered it as something that I could have, even though a lot of the typical symptoms or diagnostic criteria I've always had. But again, that's like from doing research and becoming more self-aware. But yeah, I didn't really ever think it until the last couple of years where I, so for anyone who doesn't know, burnout for neurodivergence is way worse. Like,
Mm-hmm.
try and have one of ours,
Yeah.
we literally lose the ability to function like at all with anything. I feel like we massively regress age-wise, like I'm a child again. So I did see a few TikToks and go, haha, yeah, that's me. And then that kept happening, and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of opened my eyes to something. So then I did some legitimate reading and research on it. And there's a place for those things because
Yeah.
I think they've really helped raise awareness for the average person who wouldn't necessarily
Yeah.
look. But I also think it can be a bit dangerous because there are a lot of people probably have an element of, but the difference is if it's not getting in the way of your life, then yeah. Anyway, so I saw a few of them. Then actually what did it for me was I listened to Dr. Gabor Mate's book Scattered Minds. For anyone who doesn't know, he is a genius. He is a doctor who specializes in addiction and has ADHD himself. This book was basically about that and how he came to realize he had it and how he's lived his life, etc., etc. When I say I feel like it spoke to me, I remember finishing this book and I had to just take a few days to process it because I felt like someone had stripped me naked and gone, there you go, deal with now. So I then thought, okay, I'm going to actually investigate this. Just after I got diagnosed, I had a few friends who were like, oh, yeah, oh, probably wouldn't have suspected that. These same friends, by the way, now I'm unmasking are like, oh, yeah, yeah. But what's really interesting is the professional who diagnosed me because they're so used to spotting signs, even in people who mask, said that he could tell within 10 minutes. For the average person who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about something, you can appear normal, but the people who know what they're talking about, what they're looking for, probably have it themselves. You are like a beacon. And they say, don't they, we tend to attract each other. I think the majority of my friends now either have autism or ADHD or a combination of both, because I just feel like there's this mutual understanding of, okay, we've got different needs, we've got different capacities, we're probably not the best replier in the world, we're gonna be a little bit dysregulated, and we can be unusual, but that's great, we get it.
I think with my friends group, I definitely see a lot of different traits in people. Don't see a lot of them being diagnosed at the moment. So I don't know what they think. In fact, they just think I'm their weird friend. I think in different groups of friends, there's different varieties of it, right? Or different variations of
Yeah.
people that see certain traits in people that I'm like, yeah, even if you're not, I kind of know. And I don't know if it was on Reddit or on Instagram or where I saw it, and somebody said, I don't know why one of the diagnostic criteria isn't just putting you in a room with somebody that's neurodiverse for 20 minutes, because we can spot it a mile away, right?
Yes.
It's but what I also find is the more confident I am, and one of the things that I see commenting, snarky comments, is like, oh, why is it like your whole identity? Why do you need to tell everybody that you've got ADHD? Or why do you have to tell everybody that you've got autism and things like that? What I've found, or my reason for sharing, is because up to this point, everybody just knew me, and my business connections, my work colleagues, like everybody that I've ever known in my life has just known me, right? And now it's like, oh, I'm me, but I do have ADHD, and that's a part of me, and that's a part of why I was who I was. And that kind of pushback that you get from people where they're like, oh, you don't look like you've got ADHD. And I think you hit on it before.
Mm.
That I perceive as a successful business partner, co-worker, friend, whatever else, might also have this thing going on. My mum definitely had a reaction with my brother's autistic, right? We've known that since his late childhood. So it's not that she's not open and not like go out and find your way in the world. She encouraged my ADHD habit. She encouraged all my dives into quilling, doing decoupage and all this little artwork. Then when I'd get bored, she'd help me move on to making clay figures and things like that. She entertained that I had so much interest in things. She thought I should explore the world because that's what the world's there for. That kind of encouraged some of those ADHD behaviors in a positive way. It channeled them into me understanding that if you start something and don't finish it, it's not for you. Don't be disappointed in yourself. It just wasn't the right thing for you, because the
Mm.
right thing will keep your interest, right? So when I told her, she's been so used to me being the person that the family relied on for different things. I was my stepdad's emotional support. I supported him through alcoholism and supported her through a really great relationship with him. When family members passed away, I was generally the one in the middle of things, doing the little jobs to keep everybody going. So when I kind of told her, she was like shocked, like, you're my independent, like, out there child that's like doesn't need help and doesn't need that, right? And it was this moment for her, I think, where it was like, wait, what? How did I miss that? And what could I have done differently, or how might that have been different? And I mean, it really impacted me in school academically, because it was always could have
Mm.
tried better. I know she's capable of more, easily distracted. But even that, when my mum was like, really? I'm like, You go back and read those school reports, and it would say, when Lois comes to class ready to learn, the entire class learns. If Lois doesn't want to learn, nothing happens and the class gets disrupted. I used to put myself outside of the classroom. I'd like put myself in detention. Just naughty things, but because I was intelligent and I got good grades and I could wing a test because I've got a good memory, they
Yeah.
thought I was just being rebellious and, oh, she is, it's just Lois being Lois, she's a rebel, but she gets good grades and the school needs that for the league tables.
Mm.
I got caught smoking behind the sports hall, and my mum was a teacher in my school. There was four of us, and I was in all top classes where we were the ones that were going to make the school proud. So there's four of us caught smoking. One of those people was in my mum's class. My mum was a special ed teacher. One of them got support but was in a mid-level group, and the other girl that we were with was like in a lower set as well. And the student my mum taught got excluded immediately. The other two had their parents called into school and got put in detention. They didn't even tell my mum that I was caught with them. She was furious and she's like, I can't believe it. They've suspended this person. And he was one of her favorites as well. Yeah, so it was like he was kind of like her son from another mother. She had a real big soft spot for him. He was dyslexic, but super intelligent. The guy's a carpenter now and doing insanely well for himself because he learned to lean into his
Okay.
strengths and do what he like. Insanely good businessman and carpenter.
Right.
So my mum comes home absolutely furious, like they've suspended him. He got caught smoking and he was with these two people. And I was like, I was with them too. She's like, what? And I was like, I was with them as well, Mum. Like, I got caught smoking as well. And she's like, so they suspend
Yeah.
him and they don't tell me that you were there. So the next day, my mum went back into the school and basically said, you need to exclude my daughter for the same amount of time as you've excluded him for. And they like, oh, no, no. Like, and she said, no, like she doesn't get unequal treatment, so you've excluded him, so you need to give her the same punishment because she was there. She
Mm.
told he was back in school immediately because it's the time when they submit the students for the league tables, and
Right.
if
Yeah.
somebody's excluded, they can take their GCSEs, but their grades and things didn't affect the league tables. They needed me in
Right.
that league. They didn't want him in it. My mum was just really like,
Yeah.
no, my daughter was there too. I know she smokes, and she told me she was with them. I ended up getting detention because she did insist that I got punished for it. Even with that, such an ADHD behavior, like defying the rules and things, and still it was just like
Mm.
she's a rebel, but because she's smart. Looking back on all of those, it's like I was definitely dopamine chasing.
Yes. Yes. I think we can definitely talk about dopamine chasing on the next one because that is
Yeah.
such a big. I have a massive long history of that. So yeah, definitely something we can. I think that needs a whole episode in
Mm-hmm.
itself, right?
Oh my goodness. For sure. But yeah, it was, so I think other people masked my ADHD unintentionally, and it was
Mm.
like I was also really good at sports and got good grades,
Mm.
and that's like the double winning score, right?
If.
Means I definitely got away with a lot that I shouldn't have done, that other people wouldn't, and I can see the
Mm.
impact that that different treatment has had on my traits versus right that kind of
Yeah,
like gentle
definitely.
encouragement of my rebellious behaviors. My granddad would be like, don't stop being you. I'd say something to my grandma about religion, and she'd be horrified because she was a devout Catholic. And he'd kind of go,
Oh yeah,
I agree with you.
brilliant.
My mum, my grandma, everybody. Yeah.
Good that you weren't told to shrink yourself.
Yeah.
It can make the big difference.
Yeah, I think burnout is also an entire different episode and full episode.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I think it's taken a lot of people to really hit a serious burnout as well before that true
Mm.
recognition comes of how detrimental it can be undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, but untreated,
Hmm.
and also ignored once diagnosed for those things that you're now expressing are complicated, right? And then it is just such a fighting battle to kind of deal with those burnouts and
Yeah. Because I'm sure you had this as well. After being diagnosed, you're still expected to do the things you were doing before because you could do them before. And it's like, yeah, I could do them, but at the detriment of me and my
mm-hmm.
health and my mental health. Like, I think people don't really see ADHD as a disability, and it is. They see it as this fun thing to have, like, oh yeah, they're just a bit out there and hyper and forgetful, haha. And it's like,
No.
no, it literally impacts every single day of our lives. There are some days it can be worse, some days a little bit more manageable, but that's like with any condition, really. But I do think a lot of people don't understand actually the severity, because if they followed us round for 24 hours a day, they'd be like, oh, okay, your room's a mess. Oh, just tidy it up. Genuinely, do you not have the capacity? And they'd be like, oh, but just do it. Oh, I wish
Mm-hmm.
our brains worked like that. So much more stuff would get done.
Yep.
But
It's
yeah.
a two-part blog that I posted last week based on my literature review for the project that I want to do. And I was talking about the importance of the hidden carers in our lives and how much
Mm.
they actually compensate for what goes on behind the scenes that other people don't see and understand. And when people are like, oh, you look okay, or you don't seem like anything, like how much work actually goes in behind the scenes to
Yeah.
being present in the world and seeming fine. We laugh because we know what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe 2 weeks ago, I had left my coat in the hallway over my shoes, and we had a garbage bag waiting to go outside. I actually fell over my jacket and shoes, and I jokingly
Uh,
blamed Brian for it. I did fess up to him and tell him it wasn't really the bag that I fell over. But it's a calamity. Half the time, I'm forever tripping over things, banging into things. It can be funny, especially when you embrace things a little bit more and you're like, yeah, I am that idiot and I'm going to bang my elbows 10,000 times more. Um,
Yeah.
it does have an impact. Like, if it takes me 3 hours to get outside of the door to be able to go to a job after the pandemic, I had really, really intense OCD. And like, just trying to get out the house was this whole routine that was overwhelming, that was triggering. And once I'd get to a place, I'd be fine. But it's like I still
Yeah.
have that, and I recognize, like, oh, that is part of my pattern. And it's something that holds me back. And like, when they say in our societies, oh, being late somewhere is disrespectful and you're showing that person that you don't really care about their feelings and things like that, it's like sometimes, oftentimes, when I'm late to places or I just ghost and don't go, I've spent 3 hours getting ready, and the anxiety has ended up becoming so overwhelming that it's triggered a panic attack. And now I'm exhausted, and my brain can't cope with whatever's ahead of me, right? And it's like, that's the thing that people don't see, because then I turn around and go home, or I just don't interact with people, right? So they see you at your best. They see you when you're able to get
Mm.
yourself together and do those things. They're not seeing you when you're falling flat on your face. Many years ago, I fell through the front wall at my mum's house, and while I was at home at Christmas, I walked into the house and I was like, So the back wall just fell through. I've ended up in really bad situations where I've been injured, right? And that's not something to
Mm,
necessarily laugh about.
no, it's
It's
yeah,
those cog
so
deficits.
rushed.
I know. It's like everything
Yeah.
impacts on those cognitive processes. Your executive functions are trying to do everything they can to work with your nervous
Mm.
system to keep it all in order. And then it's like,
There's a called to James Custo is who I'm thinking of, but that might be wrong. Anyway, there is a psychiatrist who has ADHD, specializes in it. He was saying that people with ADHD are less aware of where their body is in the, so like, you know, you can look at your hands and be like, oh, this is my hand and it's currently here, and then I'm going to put it here. We're less aware of that, which is why we're more susceptible to being clumsy or
mm-hmm,
injuring ourselves. The amount of times I knock a drink over, I can't even tell you, just because I've not realised how light it is, or I've put it too close to an edge. And it's so true. Like sometimes I actually disassociate from my body, and I
mm-hmm.
sometimes feel like I'm not in it,
Oh, yeah.
not
I
there.
do that every time I have an accident. It's
Yeah,
happening. I'm not going to stop it.
no control. Oh,
That we have so many things that we can talk about. We should definitely save something for another day, though.
yes, I think we got probably an hour now, right?
Yep.
The two.
Yeah.
Been
Cool.
great fun.
Cool. So,
If I could take him everywhere, there are some things he'd let me do, but some he'd be a bit. When I adopted him, he refused to get in the carrier, so he sat on my lap like this the whole car journey for
oh,
2 hours.
what's his name?
Humphrey.
Humphrey. I love that.
I do love like old man names for animals, especially cats.
Yeah, our older male cat that we call Fat Cat is called Hemingway. And it's
Oh,
Hemingway. Our tuxedo cat that's behind me will probably come and steal the limelight in a little while.
yep.
She, Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I love that.
our old dog was Huxley after Aldous Huxley because my favourite book is Brave New World.
I haven't, but if it's your favourite, I will absolutely make an effort to.
I feel
Brave New World.
it's called A Brave New World. He wrote it in like
Yep.
1935. It kind of
Mm,
feels like we're living in his vision of dystopia right now. So, um,
right.
yeah, it's
Oh yeah, it's come up. I
yeah.
will read. I do have a list.
But would your cat then like? Could you take him places with you as a support animal, or would he?
I could, but he hates being on a leash. I can't even get it over his head to do it. He's got a little buggy that I take him to the vet in, so I could probably take him out for walks. My main issue is I don't know if he is trained to go to toilet outside. He used to go outside at his old house, but I don't know how.
Right.
So I don't know if he actually did his business out there. I wish. If he was younger. He's 14. He doesn't
Oh,
look it.
he doesn't. He's
He's an
adorable.
he's an old boy.
Oh, we've got two very different personalities, but ooh,
Hmm.
I was trying to teach the cats how to use those communication buttons to tell us what they want,
Yeah.
and I got them back out. It was a waste of time, and then our older cat was diagnosed with diabetes, so I got it back out because we're going to be bringing home a puppy next week, thinking,
Yeah.
oh, yay, I can teach the puppy how to use this. And now the tuxedo cat is like, hey, I remember this. And I remember what.
Oh.
So she's currently sitting on it. And it's like she kind of gets that something might happen. And for her to
Yeah.
press a button suddenly
Interesting.
and look for her
And that's because
treats.
she's done it.
Yeah, she's like she comes when I press the button, so she knows something happens, and now she's kind of getting like oh, maybe I can make something happen.
Yes.
These things are like cat crack. Like
Oh,
I'm getting ready for her to hit one and tell me what she
brilliant.
wants. Yeah. So now I've
Mm.
got visions of the cat and the dog talking to me.
Wow.
We'll see.
Be entertaining at least.
I'm going to record the training and we'll see what happens. So, what were we talking about before we came back?
Question for two people with, with ADHD.
Oh, just on a high level, we were talking about those learned patterns of
Yeah.
ADHD and autism. And I think to go back to that a little bit and just talk about your diagnosis and my diagnosis. Yeah, two people with ADHD. How much of that learned behavior in life are you noticing now that you've been diagnosed? Because how long was it since you were officially diagnosed?
So mine was end of September last year, so still recent. Yeah, not even 6 months yet. And I would say the first few months was kind of getting my head around it, not really making any changes as such, but grieving and a lot of anger, and also why was this missed, and like, oh, this makes sense now. And then after that, I started noticing pretty much in every aspect of life where I had learned that it would be easier to be a certain way or agree with things that I probably didn't necessarily disagree with, but pretend to like things that weren't really that important to me because I felt like society was telling me that I should like those things or want those things. And yeah, it's quite sad, really, because I feel like when I look back, I mean, obviously I've just turned 30 and I'm kind of only just discovering who I am without feeling like I have to put on an act. And I'm looking back, I'm like, I've lost so much time to molding myself to just fit what I think people want. The beauty of that is, one is that I went to drama school, so I was a good actor, and that's proof that I did it in my daily life. It's shown me that I can adapt to situations, not that I want to have to put on an act or a mask anymore, but I know in some situations you do sort of still have to, like professionally and things like that. But yeah, a long-winded way, because it always is with ADHD, of saying, yeah, I've noticed so much, but I'm also still in that stage of, okay, is this behavior learned or is this a real thing because of my disposition? That's something I'm still trying to figure out and probably will be for quite a while. I think it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way that I was diagnosed is very differently to how most people I interact with get diagnosed, and it came out of the blue for me. The psychiatrist said to me, "Hey, I think this is what's going on. Let's follow this through and see if this is actually what's happening." I didn't have to join a waiting list. I would see TikToks and Instagram things and think, oh, I'm like that, or I relate to this. But I wasn't thinking to myself, maybe I have ADHD. Um, it came out of left field. When I told my mum, it came out of left field for her. It's not something she'd thought, but other people around us had suggested it before that diagnosis, including my partner Brian. Was like, "Hey, do you have you ever thought you might have ADHD?" Um, so like I've just had this. So for me, it was a whirlwind, and having come from thinking it was so many other things, I didn't necessarily have a grieving period,
Mm.
but it was more of a relief that, oh, those things happened, but this was behind a lot of it. So for me, it was a lot of relief and a lot of forgiveness to myself in those moments when these things happened. Yeah, you might have been in the wrong, or you might have made a bad decision, or screwed something up, or not done your homework as well as you could have done, or whatever it is, right? But now you know that, and now you've got that knowledge, you can kind of make a difference going forward. I am like 2 years into a diagnosis now, right? Again,
Mm.
I did have that initial learning period where it was like, I don't know what I can do, and then what I think I can do because I think I should be able to do it, right? And in my work, I would spend 24/7. I wouldn't sleep because I'd think to myself, people expect me to do this thing. I said I could do whatever it is. So now it's my responsibility to make sure I can do it. And on top of my job, I'd be trying to learn things for 8, 9 hours at night time, wondering why I couldn't do it or why it should be easy and it isn't, and what's wrong with me, right? And it's like, there's nothing wrong with me, actually. It's just not what I should have been doing because it isn't my skill area and it's not where my
Mm.
strengths. But having grown up, always having people tell me, and I think not being diagnosed. Like, I've always just been somebody that people assumed was okay. Lois is independent. She can do things. She's got a big mouth. She can stand up for herself. I've always been justice oriented. I would bully bullies at school and I'd say to them, like, hey, if you touch my friend, I'm going to be standing right there touching you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't ever really inhibited, and it like those ADHD behaviors which we know now like were kind of encouraged in some areas because it was just seen as me like, oh, she's just a little bit forward and she'll always speak her mind and things like that. But I was also raised by matriarchs in my family that were like, anything a man can do, you can do too.
Yeah.
That they kind of always like pushed me as well to be bold and be inadvertently. I ended up having a really good balance for somebody with ADHD that didn't know they had ADHD. I was on every sports team I could at school. I grew up in a really kind of rundown, shitty area where drugs was the local trade. And it like we kind of like made our own fun trying to keep ourselves out of trouble. We got into trouble too. A lot of us as adults have been diagnosed with ADHD where I'm from, and it makes a lot of sense. We grew up with open fields around us and things, and we just used to get together in big groups and run down those fields and create mischief. So it was kind of just like the
Yeah.
ideal environment for a bunch of kids with ADHD. So yeah, I think for me, it wasn't looking back with as much grief. Anger at certain teachers and people because of things that they said and
Mm.
did to me. But even that, like, I had a teacher tell me at 12 years old that by the time I was 16, I'd be sweeping factory floors. And when I hear something like that, I just think, well, fuck you. I won't be, right? And it gives me that resistance, which I know is oppositional defiance disorder. And I'll be
Yeah.
like, I'm going to show you. So it kind of goes in a positive way as well. When somebody tells me, I just get that determination. I feel very lucky that I was able to grow up in a way that our authenticity kind of allowed us all to just be ADHD kids being normal with each other. Probably not normal to the outside world because we were all quite feral, but you know.
That's good. That's quite rare, especially with women. A lot of the stories I hear from other women are the classic. I got taught like we sit still and we're loving and we're caring and we provide. For me, it was a mix of society telling me how I should be behaving as a girl, and also my mum was very like an authoritative parent. So I was always scared to anger her or upset her, so I would just minimize everything. I remember learning from a young age, actually, because I used to have quite bad temper tantrums. Hello, that was probably a sign. And she would just get so angry with me about it, and blame me for having the tantrum. I think the problem is a lot of the time people see the behavior, but they don't actually look beyond it. So they don't think, oh, okay, this girl of 2 or 3 years old is really overreacting here. As someone on the outside, why might that be? What could be going on in her head? Or what's happened to maybe cause this reaction. Instead, they just see the overreaction and then, you know, sort of act in response to that. And I think from a very young age, I kind of learned that, oh, okay, I can't express my needs and emotions because it would upset my mum and my dad to some extent when he was there. I always felt like won't be picked on. So I got taught very young to just like suck it all in. Wasn't picked up at school, wasn't really picked up by anyone, I guess, until I would say when I was 19. So yeah, like 10 or so years ago now, I did get the classic BPD diagnosis. I think had there been the amount of research there is about ADHD in women then as there is now, that would have happened then. When I went to uni and I left home, I suddenly had this, oh, I don't have a parent figure that I'm scared of anymore. I'd let myself go a bit, and that's when some of the behaviours started creeping in. But again, it wasn't consistent enough or detrimental enough to other people for them to make a thing of it. It was just always, oh yeah, Faye's got mental health problems, which I now know is no, just a neurodevelopmental disorder, really. So
So interesting, because we both just wrote a critical analysis on social and cognitive psychology's contributions to moral development, right? And something you brought up just made me think about writing that paper, which really gave me a lot of things to think about. And that is like, why do we attribute childhood expression to them just being difficult or just being naughty or not kind of doing what you expect them to do? And something that had jumped out to me as I was reading about joint attention building and things like that was modern day emphasis on the reciprocation of relationships, that it isn't just about the parent to the child, it's the child to the parent too. And a lot of parents have children and have this vision in their head of how their perfect child might turn out and all their dreams and aspirations. But quite often it's their own dreams and aspirations that they didn't quite get to. When that child is then different to what's expected, it kind of like impact on parents in a way that I think we need to talk about a little bit more, because I'm not sure they understand how detrimental they can actually then be to their child's development by not recognizing those communications. Thanks for listening to Unlabelled and Limitless, where we hold space for stories that challenge norms and celebrate neurodivergent voices. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a rating or review. It helps more people find their way to these conversations. We've got more real talk coming your way soon, so please don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. And until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, you don't have to fit into a box to belong.